Okay, so this video isn't really about gaming, which is off topic for the channel, but one of my points will loosely tie into the gaming scene, so it's whatever. Branching out isn't necessarily a bad thing. So this Gillette ad, I won't play the whole thing right now all at once because of copyright, but this one.
Bullying.
The Me Too movement against sexual
Toxic
harassment.
masculinity.
Is this the best a man can get?
This ad, and we'll discuss more segments in a minute, has been absolutely blowing up across all of my feeds. Everyone's talking about it, and it spurred quite a bit of debate. People reacting positively, people reacting negatively, people attacking the other people that didn't react like they did. It's kind of a shit show. I had a healthy debate, and I guess I wouldn't even really call it a debate because we weren't really trying to change each other's minds or the minds of others, but a healthy discussion at least about this with one of the upper echelon core team members, and it was really interesting to the point where I decided why not make an actual video and talk about it, because I firmly believe that the ad has both good and bad qualities that can be analyzed. Furthermore, if more people understand why it is having an inflammatory effect, then more people can potentially learn something of value, rather than just having another short-lived media freakout over something that caused a bit of controversy and then fades away.
Bullying.
The Me Too movement against sexual
Toxic
harassment.
masculinity.
Is this the best a man can get?
So right off the bat, it starts in with the buzzwords: bullying, toxic masculinity, and the Me Too movement, showing men's faces and then asking the question, is this the best a man can get? Now, there's nothing wrong with challenging existing norms and asking provocative questions, but tired buzzwords like toxic masculinity, which are just a meme at this point, a fictional construct used to paint men in a bad light at the drop of a hat for any sort of malleable or ambiguous issue or disagreement. Usage of that type of buzzword, depending on their goal, is a shaky platform to ask their initial thought-provoking question. If their goal is to spur meaningful change, they must establish an ad and a message that resonates with the target subset of men that act in the way they wish to modify. The ad must be built in such a way that it does not alienate or drive away the audience they wish to have an impact on, but convinces them of a different path. Leading with the term toxic masculinity, which is an undeniably inflammatory word in many contexts nowadays, was one of the worst ways that they could have chosen to start, if their goal was to have an actual legitimate positive impact, that is. Now, if their goal was to create controversy and spread their ad further across the internet as a result, then it's off to a great start. A fantastic start even. But if their goal was to simply generate controversy and spread brand recognition, the hypocrisy of their overall message would be deeply seated.
We can't hide from it.
Sexual harassment is taking over.
It's been going on far too long. We can't laugh it off.
Who's the daddy?
What I actually think she's trying to say.
Making the same old excuses.
The ad continues and mentions bullying, sexual harassment, and shows a compilation of visuals to aid the message that these topics are problems, that these issues exist and cannot be ignored. This part is accurate. Topics like this should not be ignored at all, and there are certainly steps that can be taken and are being taken in order for society to improve. Accurate prosecution of sexual crimes should certainly be expected, and systems set up to help serve justice when evidence and accusation are presented in unison. On the topic of bullying, though the advertisement seems to paint a picture of emotion being used as a mechanism for ridicule at a younger age, and I would assert that at younger ages anything is used as a mechanism to ridicule peers. Kids are brutal to each other, but in a broad sense, on the topic of bullying, the ad holds value. Standing up for one another, providing support, and allowing individualism is a wholesome message that few would likely disagree with, at least not in a polarized way. But from here, the ad takes a bit of a turn.
Making the same old excuses.
Boys will be boys.
Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys.
But something finally changed.
Allegations regarding sexual assault and sexual harassment.
But she says
And there will be no going back.
If I had to extrapolate why a decent section of viewers are unhappy with this advertisement, this part would be another major factor. The phrase "boys will be boys" is an old saying and is indeed used improperly at times to justify improper behavior, but in the same breath, hypersensitivity to the actions of children, monitoring their actions without having a reasonable dose of, well, they are children, they bounce back, they will bicker and disagree, but if we clamp down on them too much, it would just hurt their social development. Without that sort of reasonable mindset, we end up with children who are incapable of interacting on a widespread societal level because they just fall apart like wet toilet paper when times get tough, having never experienced adversity of any kind before. The reason a group of male viewers specifically are likely having a negative response to the ad is because the shot of fathers chanting the phrase like robots over and over points to a lapse at the family level and paints a broad strokes negative picture of fatherhood, something that can resonate in a very bad way with family men. It is by no means a stone cold statement that all father figures are doing an improper job and contribute to the various issues. In fact, later on, the ad does a decent job of showing an inverse example, but the way they frame these shots, with very large groups functioning in unison, chanting a very common phrase, even on a subconscious level, it can spur a negative reaction. Let's put it this way, the video appears to correlate toxic masculinity with bullying, and now the phrase boys will be boys. Many fathers, or mothers for that matter, have used the term boys will be boys, but not as a justification for excessive bullying, not in a proposed toxically masculine way, but as a loose dismissal of childlike behavior. A much better phrase with an overlapping definition would be they're just kids, or kids will be kids. They mean the same thing in the vast majority of situations, but are used interchangeably. A lot of parents who work as hard as they can to teach moral values will likely have used the phrase boys will be boys at some point in their lives. It is very unlikely that the phrase was used to justify grossly inappropriate behavior as well, and was merely a synonymous usage to a similar phrase like they're just kids, it's not a big deal. So these parents will see this ad among other groups and have a potentially negative reaction, because it's quite possible they will feel personally attacked. The ad's description of issues and causes do in fact apply to them, even though they may not have done or are doing anything wrong at all. The ad also chooses deliberately to place the chanting choir of the Boys Will Be Boys dads and the Young Turks, a notoriously left-wing media outlet, right next to one another, as the Young Turks mention explicitly sexual misconduct. This leads viewers to easily associate the term boys will be boys with boys will be boys and therefore sexually harass, which is not what the commercial intended, at least I hope. I believe the intention was to say that terms like boys will be boys should not be used as a dismissal for sexual misconduct, but on a surface level, after one watch, without diving deeper into the context, it is reasonable that many viewers would draw a different conclusion and come away feeling quite unhappy.
Because we believe in the best in men.
Men need to hold other men accountable.
Smile, sweetie.
Come on.
To say the right thing. To act the right way.
Bro, not cool, not cool.
The ad goes on to start displaying visuals of more appropriate behavior, painting good deeds in a very good light. And again, this is where we bring it back to a pretty wholesome message.
Some already are. In ways big
Yo, men,
and small.
I am strong.
But some is not enough.
I believe that few would disagree that standing up for those in need is in fact a good thing, but it's hard to overlook the lines that are being drawn between toxic masculinity, bullying, then boys will be boys, all the way to sexual harassment. Because part of the boys will be boys mentality, if we examine it in the way that the commercial obviously intends it to be viewed, which is related to gender expectations, standing up for those in need is a historically well-taught part of masculinity growing up. In one sense, they are advocating that gender stereotyping language should be removed from society, but they are also painting some of the core principles to that same gender stereotyping itself as a positive and the method by which it should be removed. It's a core identity crisis and makes no sense at all.
Because the boys watching today will be the men of tomorrow.
The ad concludes with a wholesome message about being the best that we all can be, bettering ourselves, and challenging ourselves to be more in the pursuit of all of that. This part is very effective and has no subtext. It is a straight up positive message about being better people. Examined in a vacuum, I doubt hardly anyone would ever disagree with that ending. Being better, the pursuit of doing the right thing, it's a good way to conclude, and that is not the part the viewers are finding to be unpleasant. But such a wholesome conclusion finds less footing when the lead up is riddled with errors that draw broad strokes comparisons. My initial thoughts on the commercial were very confused. I was thinking to myself, Gillette is razors, right? Just tell me about your products. How many blades does the razor have? How it contours my face? Will it give me razor burn? But then, after some thought, I realized that a large entity using its platform to try and spur positive change, well, on a basic level, that deserves recognition. But then, more and more, I began to realize that the ad was deliberately crafted to be controversial. It tried to walk the fine line of provoking enough people to gain widespread traction, fueled by both outrage and support, but not stray too far and do any actual damage to their core demographic support. If you explore the debate surrounding this ad, it is riddled with bickering and insults. To relate it back to gaming very quickly, Cliffy B, a well-known game designer, is in the comments as well, both throwing jabs and also being attacked. The interesting thing is that Cliffy B helped create some of the most masculine games in history within the Gears of War franchise, arguably having a tangible impact on the reinforcement of societal masculine standards on par with or above offhanded use of the phrase, boys will be boys. Yet, here he is, falling on one side of the polarized conversation regarding an advertisement produced by Gillette. This just reinforces my conclusion that Gillette did this out of a desire for word of mouth and outrage debate marketing, far more than any desire to effect actual reasonable and meaningful change. The rhetoric they used and the platform they laid for the advertisement, with their broad strokes comparisons, was obviously going to simply entrench two sides of a political debate. This point is underscored by their usage of the Young Turks when a myriad of other examples exist for that exact same purpose. They tied it together with a meaningful message about self-improvement, knowing full well a great deal of viewers, specifically viewers within their own core demographic, being men, would have enough of a restless reaction to it that it would spread independent of them having to pay for it to appear on television and other outlets. There is a right and a wrong way to go about spurring positive social change. I discussed this when covering a recent story about a fake female esports account. The account was cited as a social experiment after the fact, but a fake female account was created and then signed to a pro team within a very short amount of time. Then it was found out to be fake and resigned under the scrutiny. Those behind the account then admitted to having been faking everything. Mainstream gaming news jumped on the story in a heartbeat, citing toxic masculinity yet again and similar buzzwords, claiming a male-dominated industry harassed this fake account out of the spotlight simply because she was a girl, all the while not even realizing the account was a man pretending to be a girl, and most of the criticism and skepticism thrown out had been fully justified and accurate. Using ignorant buzzwords like toxic masculinity or even terms like SJW, which I am guilty of having used time and time again in the past, only entrench viewers or readers in their existing points of view. A far better method of spurring change is to understand your audience and promote a moral standpoint without making it aggressive or provocative. This is my audience demographics page. My audience is almost exclusively male between the ages of 18 and 44. If I were to say things like the toxically masculine gamers out there should realize that they need to change, I would alienate, most likely, a large chunk of viewers. But if I simply frame a positive message as a general and heartfelt stance, it would have a far greater, more powerful, and less controversial effect. I feel very comfortable echoing the final statements that Gillette's advertisement made, saying that we should always be seeking a better version of ourselves, that treating each other right on a person-to-person level is in fact a very good thing, and promoting that message. But I do not feel comfortable sprinkling in buzzwords like toxic masculinity, and drawing parallels between young boys bickering or making jokes and sexual harassment or assault. I would not try to pair visuals of sitcom-level fatherhood on a widespread level with the message that boys and men must be and do better, because it would not elicit the right widespread response and not have nearly as much value. Anyways, that's really all there is to say about it. The ad is very poorly designed and has been showing up all over my social media, with reactions ranging from support to disdain, and I thought it would be a fun breakdown to give my thoughts on why it's a terrible ad that honestly didn't need to be terrible and could have actually been very, very good. If you want to support Upper Echelon, check out the links down below. We have new merchandise with custom name, custom gamer tag, and number, jackets, hoodies, jerseys, etc., and some more products as well. And there's also some social communities like Discord, Facebook, our own gaming forums. That's all linked in the description as well. But that's all for today, though. I'll stop rambling. As always, thank you for watching, and have a nice night.